New this morning, Donald Trump's legal team is asking the judge to hold off on setting a trial date in the former president's classified documents case. In a late-night court filing, Trump's legal team said the presidential election cycle, and the way they put it is, will create extraordinary challenges in the jury selection process. They want the trial delayed until after the 2024 election, contending that otherwise it will be virtually impossible to seat an impartial jury while Trump is running for the White House. Lawyers for Trump aide Walt Nauta are also looking for a delay. CNN's Paula Reed has much more on this one. Paula, what are you hearing from the special counsel with regard to both of these requests?
Okay, Jack Smith has made it clear he wants a, quote, speedy trial. He has suggested doing this in December, which feels like it's a ways away, but given the complexities of this case, that would be indeed a speedy trial. But the former president has every incentive to want to delay this until after the election. Now, you can't just tell the judge, hey, it's not convenient for me to do this right now. You have to make legal arguments. So that's what they're putting forth right now. They are arguing that this case is going to raise unprecedented questions that will have to be litigated, and that will take time. They've also raised this question about whether you can even seat an impartial jury leading up to something as consequential as a presidential election. They also laid out about half a dozen other legal challenges that they intend to bring in this case. Everything, Kate, from questions about whether these documents were really classified to trying to challenge the authority of the special counsel. Now, it's not likely they're going to succeed with those challenges, but they have every right to bring them, and they have the effect of delaying this, right? This takes time for the courts to hash out these questions. And that's what Jack Smith was worried about. That's why one of the few things he said publicly is that he wanted this to move quickly, that is in the public interest. So the final word, though, lies with the judge and everybody watching. Trump appointed Aileen Cannon as she decides whether she is going to let this sort of play out over a few years, or she too is going to push for a speedy trial. And finally, just one example of this is they had a hearing scheduled for this Friday. Walt Nauta wanted to delay that, and the special counsel pushed back. Absolutely not. They really went to the mats over this. They said that it is in the public interest not to keep delaying things because he knows that you have, of course, these big questions, right, about being able to seat an impartial jury. But even these little incremental scheduling delays, these add up over time. So as of now, it appears that hearing will be next week instead. So not a long delay, but again, over time, these little delays add up, and it's up to the judge to decide when this goes to trial.
That's right. Good to see you, Paul. Thanks for the update. Sarah.
With us now is CNN legal analyst and former federal prosecutor Elliot Williams. Thank you so much for joining us today, Elliot. First, let's just get to the likelihood of all of this. What is the likelihood that Judge Cannon will agree to postponing this? Really, Trump is asking until after the presidential election.
You know, Sarah, that's a political question, not a legal one. Now, certainly any criminal defendant has a right to a fair trial at a reasonable time. Now, trying to postpone it until after the election, I think poses a few problems for President Trump. I think, number one, when it comes to juries, the law presumes and anticipates that jurors can be fair if instructed as to what their duties and obligations are. And a lot of jurors come in and say, I could never hold this person in judgment, and then the judge explains to them what the law is and says, okay, you have to do that, and often the juror will agree to it. So, number one, I think they actually probably can find a fair jury in a county of 1.1 million people. You can find 12 folks to do it. The other question is that, you know, Trump is quite literally the most famous person on the planet, or at least one of them. Whether he's tried prior to the election or not, whether he's a candidate or not, his fame is still going to be an issue. So this whole idea that he just can't get a fair trial anywhere in Atlanta, I think is not going to hold much water.
Yeah, you make a really good point. I mean, his name is known worldwide. That's not going to change during the election. I want to ask you about Trump's aide, Walt Nauta, because he is asking for delay for different reasons. When you see these two things coming, obviously Donald Trump helping to pay for his attorneys as well, do you think these two moves are really just a tactic to delay, or is this a reasonable request with Nauta saying, look, my attorney, my main attorney, is doing something else at the time, trying something else, but the prosecution says he has a Florida attorney that can do just fine?
Sarah Seidner, stop. You're both right. Because number one, as a criminal defendant, he's entitled to a fair trial. And I think prosecutors and judges are often very careful on issues like this because the one thing that can mess up a conviction and get it thrown out on appeal is jeopardizing or violating a defendant's speedy trial or just trial rights in general. So I think they're proceeding with a little bit of caution. Now, look, it does appear that he's trying to slow these proceedings down quite a bit with a number of these pleadings and filings. At a certain point, the judge can just set a trial date and say, and document on the record, these are all the opportunities that the prosecution has given the defendant. This is when all of our hearings were. This is, in fact, a fair trial date, and put it on the calendar and see what happens. But again, both the prosecutor and the judge have to proceed with a little bit of caution because this could really jeopardize the case in the end.